The giant space station called Unity Prime floated in the darkness of space like a metal city. It was bigger than most planets and home to the Galactic Council, where 47 different alien species met to make decisions about the galaxy. Today was special because the humans had asked to join the Council's military defense force. Commander Jake Morrison stood in the middle of the huge round chamber. He was a tall man with gray hair and steady blue eyes. His uniform was simple and clean, nothing like the fancy clothes the aliens wore. Around him sat creatures that looked like nightmares and dreams mixed together. Some had too many eyes, others had no eyes at all. Some breathed air. Others floated in tanks of strange liquid. Jake looked up at the massive insect creature sitting on the highest platform. This was Ambassador Zexler of the Vorthok Empire. He was as big as a truck, with black shell armor and mandibles that clicked when he talked. His voice sounded like metal scraping against stone. "So the humans want to help defend the galaxy," Zexler said. His mandibles clicked in what passed for laughter among his kind. "How amusing. Tell me, Commander Morrison, what can your species possibly offer us?" Jake kept his face calm even though he wanted to smile. "We have been part of the galactic community for 30 years. We have learned much about warfare and defense. We believe we can contribute to keeping the galaxy safe." A sound like breaking glass filled the chamber. It came from Luxara, the representative of the crystalline hegemony. She was made of pure energy and looked like a woman made of blue light. "Contribute? Your ships are museum pieces. Your weapons? Fire small metal bullets. We have plasma cannons that can melt entire moons." Captain Lisa Parker stood behind Jake. She was shorter than him, with brown hair tied back and sharp green eyes. She had been with the Earth fleet for 15 years and had seen things that would make most aliens run in fear. But today she had to stay quiet and let Jake do the talking. "Our technology may seem simple," Jake said, "but we have our own ways of doing things. We adapt quickly and learn from our mistakes." The chamber filled with sounds that might have been laughter in 47 different languages. A creature that looked like a walking tree spoke up. This was Rootsinger Velden of the Arbor Collective. "Adapt? Learn? Child species we have been fighting wars since before your son was born. What could you possibly teach us?" Jake noticed how the aliens looked at him. Some seemed amused, like adults watching a child play with toys. Others looked bored, as if this whole meeting was a waste of time. A few seemed almost insulted that humans would dare to ask for such an important job. "Perhaps," said a voice like wind through caves, "we should examine what the humans call their military might." This came from Commander Sethanis of the Void. Walkers. He was tall and thin, wrapped in shadows that moved like living things. His species lived in the space between stars and knew secrets that other races feared to learn. A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed images of human ships and weapons. The aliens leaned forward to look, and Jake could hear their comments. "Look at those tiny ships," whispered something that sounded like water flowing over rocks. "They are no bigger than our escape pods." "And those weapons," clicked Zexler. "They shoot pieces of metal. How primitive." The display showed the UES Defender, one of Earth's newest ships. It was long and sleek, painted gray and white. To Jake, it looked powerful and dangerous. To the aliens, it looked like a child's toy. "This is your flagship?" asked Luxara. Her energy form flickered with what might have been amusement. "Our patrol boats are larger than this," Jake nodded. "The Defender is indeed our newest design. She carries a crew of 300 and has served us well in several conflicts." 300? The tree creature's leaves rustled with surprise. "Our smallest warships carry 20,000 warriors." More images appeared. Human soldiers in their combat armor, human weapons, human military bases. Each one brought more sounds of alien amusement. Jake watched it all with the patience of someone who had expected this reaction. A new voice spoke up. It was deep and rumbling, like an earthquake given words. "Perhaps we should hear what conflicts these humans have fought." This was General Thokmar of the Stonehammer Legion. His species looked like living mountains, covered in rock and crystal. They were known throughout the galaxy as some of the finest warriors ever born. "We have fought several wars," Jake said. "Against other human nations, against rebel groups, against pirates and raiders, we have always found ways to win." "Against other humans," Thokmar repeated. "Not against real enemies? Not against species with technology that could burn your worlds to ash." The chamber fell quiet for a moment. Then Zexler spoke again. "Commander Morrison, your species has been part of the galactic community for 30 years. In that time, you have shown yourselves to be clever merchants and skilled diplomats. But warriors, defenders of the galaxy, I think not." Jake felt Lisa tense behind him. He knew what she was thinking. They both knew what the aliens did not. The ships they had seen, the weapons they had laughed at, the small military bases, none of it was real. Well, it was real, but it was not the truth. For 30 years, humanity had been playing a very dangerous game. They had shown the galaxy exactly what they wanted the galaxy to see. Small ships, simple weapons, limited military power. All of it designed to make the aliens think that humans were harmless. "I understand your concerns," Jake said. "But we believe that experience in warfare is not the only thing that matters. Sometimes fresh ideas and new approaches can make a difference." "Fresh ideas?" Luxara's energy form flared brighter. "Child species, we have been perfecting the art of war for millions of years. Your entire civilization is younger than some of our individual soldiers." A creature that looked like a giant spider spoke up. "Perhaps we should vote. This discussion has gone on long enough." Jake knew what was coming. He had expected it from the moment he walked into the chamber. But he also knew that this was all part of the plan, a plan that had been 30 years in the making, all in favor of accepting the human request to join the Galactic Defense Force. Zexler's voice echoed through the chamber. Silence. "All opposed?" The chamber filled with sounds of agreement from 47 different species. Clicks, whistles, rumbles, and noises that no human throat could make. It was unanimous. "The motion is denied," Zexler announced. "The humans will not be permitted to join the Galactic Defense Force, perhaps in another few hundred years. When your species has matured, we can discuss this again." More sounds of amusement filled the chamber. Jake noticed that some of the aliens were not even looking at him anymore. To them, he was already forgotten, a minor curiosity that had briefly entertained them. "We understand," Jake said. "Thank you for your consideration." He turned to leave, and Lisa followed him. As they walked toward the exit, Jake heard the aliens already moving on to other business. The humans had been dismissed, filed away as a harmless species that would never be a threat to anyone. As the doors closed behind them, Jake felt his communicator buzz. The message was short and encrypted, but he knew what it meant. Admiral John Hayes, the head of Earth's real military, had been watching the proceedings. The message read, "Phase 2 is approved. It's time to show them what we're really made of." Jake looked at Lisa and saw his own thoughts reflected in her eyes. The aliens thought they knew humanity. They thought they understood what humans were capable of. They were about to learn how wrong they had been. The galaxy was about to discover that the greatest mistake you can make is to underestimate your enemy. And humanity was about to stop pretending to be weak. 6 months had passed since the Galactic Council rejected humanity's request to join the Defense Force. Life continued as normal across the galaxy until the day the stars began to die. Captain Ryan O'Connor stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, watching his screens with growing horror. The ship was small by galactic standards, just like all the human vessels the aliens had seen. But Ryan knew things about his ship that the aliens did not, things that might matter very soon. "Captain," called Lieutenant Emma Shaw from her station. "I'm reading massive energy signatures coming through the Kepler rift. Something big is coming through." Ryan moved to look at her screen. The Kepler rift was a tier in space that scientists had been studying for years. It led to another galaxy, but nothing had ever come through it before. Until now. "How big?" Ryan asked. "Sir, the readings are off the charts. Whatever is coming through, it's bigger than anything we've ever seen." A new voice crackled over the communication system. It was Admiral Kethfer of the Alteran Defense Fleet. His species looked like tall lizards, with golden scales, and had always been proud of their military might. Attention all ships in the Outer Rim. We have a situation at the Kepler Rift. Unknown vessels are emerging and they appear to be hostile. All available ships move to intercept. Ryan looked at his crew. There were only 30 people on the Defiant, compared to the thousands that served on alien warships. But each one of them knew their job perfectly. Set course for the Kepler Rift? Ryan ordered, and send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we might have a problem. As the Defiant jumped to faster-than-light speed, Ryan thought about the last 6 months. After the rejection at the Council, humanity had quietly continued their work. They had watched, learned, and prepared. Now it looked like that preparation might be needed. The Defiant dropped out of hyperspace near the Kepler Rift, and Ryan saw something that made his blood run cold. Ships were pouring through the rift, but they were not like anything he had ever seen. They looked alive, like giant insects or sea creatures, but they were made of metal and energy. "Captain," Emma said, her voice tight with fear. "I count over. 300 ships and more are coming through every minute." The alien ships were massive, each one the size of a small moon. They moved with purpose, spreading out in formation as they entered normal space. Ryan could see weapons charging along their hulls, weapons that glowed with an evil light. "Sir," called Sergeant Tony Lopez from the weapons station. "The lead ship is transmitting something. Audio only. Put it on speaker." The voice that filled the bridge was like nothing Ryan had ever heard. It was many voices speaking as one, cold and mechanical and utterly without mercy. "We are the Zephyrian Collective. We have come to harvest this galaxy. All life will be absorbed. All resistance will be crushed. Submit now and your death will be quick." Ryan felt his crew tense around him. These were not raiders or pirates. This was something far worse. An invasion force from another galaxy, and they wanted to destroy everything living. "All ships, this is Admiral Kethfer, attack formation. We will show these invaders what happens when they threaten civilized space." Ryan watched as the Alteran fleet moved to engage the Zephyrian ships. The Alterans were proud warriors with powerful ships and energy weapons. Their plasma cannons could melt asteroids, and their shields could stop almost anything. The battle began with a flash of light that lit up the entire system. The Alteran ships fired their best weapons at the Zephyrian vessels. Plasma beams and particle cannons struck the alien hulls, but the weapons barely scratched them. "This is impossible," Emma whispered. "Nothing can survive direct hits from Alteran." Plasma cannons. The Zephyrian ships returned fire. Their weapons were unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. They fired beams of pure darkness that seemed to eat light itself. When the beams hit the Alteran ships, the vessels did not explode. They simply ceased to exist, as if they had never been there at all. "Captain," Tony said, his voice shaking. "Admiral Kethfer's flagship just disappeared." Ryan watched in horror as the Alteran fleet was destroyed in minutes. Ships that had protected the galaxy for thousands of years were wiped out like they were made of paper. The Zephyrian vessels moved forward, heading for the inner systems where billions of people lived. "Sir, we're receiving distress calls from all over the Outer Rim," Emma reported. "The Vorthic Empire is under attack. The crystalline hegemony is sending everything they have to stop the invasion." Ryan knew what was happening. The same species that had mocked humanity 6 months ago were now facing an enemy they could not defeat. Their superior technology and ancient wisdom meant nothing against these creatures from another galaxy. "Captain," called Chief Engineer Paul Watson from the engine room. "We're getting an encoded message from Earth Command. It's marked urgent." "Put it through to my private channel." Ryan stepped into his ready room and activated the secure communication system. The face that appeared on the screen was Admiral Sandra Hayes, the head of Earth's real military operations. "Ryan, I need you to listen carefully. The situation is worse than we thought. The Zephyrian Collective is not just an invasion force. They are a hive mind that absorbs other species. Every person they capture makes them stronger, Ryan felt his stomach drop. How do we fight something like that? We don't fight them. Not yet. I need you to do something that might seem wrong. But it's vital to our survival. I need you to help the aliens. Admiral, they rejected us. They said we were too primitive to help defend the galaxy. I know. But right now, they're dying. And we need them to survive long enough for us to implement our real plan. Ryan understood. For 30 years, humanity had been preparing for something like this. They had built their real military in secret while showing the galaxy only what they wanted to see. Now it was time to move to the next phase. What are your orders, Admiral? Help coordinate the defense. Use the Defiant to gather intelligence on these Zephyrian ships. We need to know everything about them before we reveal our crew capabilities. The communication ended and Ryan returned to the bridge. His crew looked at him with questions in their eyes. Sir, Emma said, are we really going to help them? After what they did to us? Ryan thought about the question. The aliens had treated humanity like children, had mocked their military, had rejected them without a second thought. But they were also the only thing standing between the Zephyrian collective and Earth. We're going to help them, Ryan said. But not because we like them, because we need them alive. The Defiant moved toward the battle, its small size allowing it to slip between the massive alien ships. Ryan watched as the crystalline hegemony's energy beings tried to fight the Zephyrian vessels. Their pure energy forms should have been impossible to destroy, but the dark matter weapons of the invaders were tearing them apart. Captain, I'm picking up a transmission from the Galactic Council, Emma said. They're calling an emergency session. Ryan nodded. Put me through to Unity Prime. The face that appeared on the screen was Ambassador Zexther, the same insect alien who had mocked humanity 6 months ago. But now his mandibles were not clicking with laughter. They were chattering with fear. Commander Morrison, we need your help. The situation is desperate. We will accept any assistance your species can provide. Ryan felt a cold smile cross his face. I'll pass your message along to Earth Command, but I should warn you our help might not be what you expect. A communication ended and Ryan turned to his crew. Send a message to Admiral Hayes. Tell her the aliens are ready to see what humanity can really do. As the Defiant continued to gather intelligence on the Zephyrian ships, Ryan thought about what was coming. The galaxy was about to learn that the species they had dismissed as primitive had been preparing for this moment for 30 years. And when humanity finally revealed their true power, no one would be laughing anymore. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in the history of the galaxy. The great chamber that had once echoed with laughter and mockery now filled with sounds of fear and desperation. Species that had never agreed on anything were now united by one terrible fact. They were losing the war. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Walsh stood at the human delegation station, watching the chaos unfold around her. She was a small woman with short blonde hair and calm blue eyes. But everyone in the chamber knew she spoke for Earth's government. What they did not know was that she also spoke for something much more dangerous, Ambassador. Zexther's mandibles clicked rapidly as he read the latest battle reports. The Serpentine Alliance has lost 12 worlds in the past hour. Their quantum disruptors are useless against Zephyrian bioarmor. Luxara, the energy being from the crystalline hegemony, flickered with distress. Our people are being absorbed into their collective. Every mind they take makes them stronger and smarter. General Thokmar, the rock-like warrior, slammed his massive fist on his platform. My fleets cannot even scratch their hulls. These creatures fight like nothing we have ever seen. Sarah listened to the reports with growing satisfaction. Not because she wanted the aliens to suffer, but because they were finally ready to listen. For 6 months, humanity had been waiting for this moment. The moment when the galaxy's arrogance would be replaced by desperation. The Vorthic Empire has fallen back to their home system, announced Commander Sathanis, his shadow-wrapped form trembling with fear. Their plasma cannons cannot penetrate Zephyrian shields. Their void shields cannot stop dark matter weapons. Rootsinger Veldon, the tree-like alien, spoke with leaves that rustled like dying things. The Arbor Collective has lost contact with our outer colonies. We believe they have been completely harvested. Sarah stepped forward. The Earth government is prepared to offer assistance. The chamber fell silent. 47 species that had mocked humanity just months ago now turned to look at her with something like hope. What can your people possibly do? Zexter asked, but his voice held no mockery now. Your ships are small, your weapons are primitive. How can you help when our advanced technology has failed? Sarah smiled. It was not a kind smile. Perhaps. Our primitive technology is exactly what you need. Before anyone could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. The massive display screen at the center of the chamber lit up, showing the space around Unity Prime. Zephyrian ships were approaching, their biomechanical hulls gleaming with alien purpose. Impossible, whispered Luxara. Unity Prime is protected by the strongest shields in the galaxy. Zephyrian ships opened fire. Their dark matter weapons struck the station's shields, and the barriers that had protected the Council for thousands of years began to crack like glass. All defensive systems online, ordered Admiral Kretox of the Serpentine Alliance. Prepare to repel invaders. The station's weapons fired back, but the results were the same as everywhere else. The advanced alien technology that had once seemed so powerful was useless against these invaders from another galaxy. Sarah touched a small device on her wrist. This is Walsh. Emergency protocols are active. Request immediate assistance. Who are you calling? Demanded Zexter. Your home fleet is days away from here. Is it? Sarah asked. The space around Unity Prime suddenly filled with new contacts. Ships appeared from nowhere, materializing out of empty space as if they had been hiding in the shadows between stars. But these were not the small, simple vessels the aliens had seen before. The first ship to appear was massive, larger than anything in the Galactic Council's fleet. It was sleek and dark, covered in armor that seemed to absorb light itself. Along its hull, weapons of unknown design began to charge with an eerie blue glow. This is Admiral Kate Sullivan of the United Earth Shadow Fleet, came a voiceover. The communication system? Unity Prime, you are now under our protection. More ships continued to appear. Destroyers, cruisers, battleships, and vessels of designs that had never been seen before. Each one was bigger and more advanced than anything the galaxy had ever produced. Zexter's mandibles had stopped clicking entirely. This is impossible. These ships, they are not in any of our databases. That's because you were never supposed to see them, Sarah said calmly. For 30 years, we have been building our real fleet. What you saw before were just the ships. We wanted you to see the largest ship in the human fleet, a massive dreadnought called the UES Retribution, moved toward the attacking Zephyrian vessels. Its weapon systems came online, but they were not the kinetic weapons the aliens expected. Opening fire, Admiral Sullivan announced. The Retribution fired its main guns, but what emerged was not metal bullets or energy beams. Waves of twisted spacetime erupted from the ship's weapons, striking the Zephyrian vessels with the force of collapsed stars. The biomechanical ships, which had shrugged off the galaxy's most powerful weapons, were torn apart by attacks that warped reality itself. Gravity cannons, Sarah explained to the stunned aliens. We learned to weaponize the fundamental forces of the universe. Another human ship, a sleek destroyer called the UES Phantom, seemed to flicker in and out of existence. It appeared next to a Zephyrian vessel, fired weapons that phased through the enemy's shields, and then vanished before return fire could reach it. Quantum tunneling engines, Sarah continued. We can be anywhere, anytime. The battle around Unity Prime was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. The Zephyrian ships, which had seemed invincible, were being systematically destroyed by human weapons that operated on principles the aliens could not understand. Captain Mike Torres commanded. The Phantom from his bridge, watching as his quantum torpedoes passed through Zephyrian armor like it was not there. His crew worked with perfect efficiency, each one trained for scenarios the aliens could not imagine. Target destroyed, reported his weapons officer, Lieutenant Kelly Murphy. Moving to next target. The phantom flickered and appeared behind. Another Zephyrian ship. This time, Torres activated a weapon the aliens had never seen before. Reality around the enemy vessel began to change, as if the laws of physics were being rewritten. The ship's hull began to age rapidly, rusting and crumbling until it fell apart. "Reality scramblers," Torres said to himself. "Let's see you adapt to that." Back in the council chamber, the alien representatives watched in stunned silence as humanity's true military might was revealed. Ships that had been hidden for decades emerged from secret bases throughout the galaxy. Weapons that rewrote the rules of warfare turned the tide of battle in minutes. "How many ships do you have?" whispered Luxara. "Enough," Sarah replied. "We have been preparing for this day since we first learned about the galaxy. We studied your weapons, your tactics, your weaknesses, and we built something better." The last Zephyrian ship in the area was destroyed by a weapon that turned its own dark matter against it. The space around Unity Prime was filled with the wreckage of vessels that had seemed unstoppable just minutes before. "The immediate threat is neutralized," Admiral Sullivan reported. "But this was just a scouting force. The main Zephyrian fleet is still coming." Sarah turned to address the council. "We are prepared to defend the galaxy, but we will do it our way, under our command. The age of human restraint is over." The aliens who had once mocked humanity's primitive weapons now faced a terrible truth. They had been sharing the galaxy with beings far more dangerous than they had ever imagined, and humanity was no longer interested in hiding their true nature. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you underestimated the most adaptable species in the universe. The species that had spent 30 years planning for this exact moment, the species that had just begun to show their true power. The victory at Unity Prime had given the galaxy hope, but it lasted only 3 days. Deep space sensors detected something that made even the human commanders pause. The main Zephyrian fleet was coming, and it was bigger than anyone had imagined. Admiral Ben Carter stood on the bridge of the UES Nemesis, the flagship of humanity's true fleet. He was an older man with silver hair and scars that told stories of battles the aliens had never heard about. Behind him, the largest human armada ever assembled prepared for the fight of their lives. "Admiral," called Commander Lisa Grant from the sensor station, "I'm reading over 10,000 Zephyrian vessels approaching through the Kepler Rift, and sir, there's something else. Something massive." Ben looked at the tactical display and felt his blood chill. At the center of the Zephyrian fleet was a ship that defied understanding. It was the size of Earth's moon, a biomechanical nightmare that pulsed with dark energy. "That's their queen ship," said Dr. Rachel Kim, humanity's leading expert on Zephyrian technology. "Our intelligence suggests it's not just a ship. It's a living creature, and it controls the entire collective." Ben nodded grimly. "How long until they reach the inner systems?" 12 hours, sir, maybe less." The communication system crackled to life. It was Admiral Kate Sullivan from the Retribution. "Ben, we're getting reports from across the galaxy. The Zephyrians aren't just attacking military targets. They're systematically harvesting entire worlds." Ben activated the fleet-wide channel. "All ships, this is Admiral Carter. We have 12 hours to stop the largest invasion force in galactic history. If we fail, every living thing in this galaxy will be absorbed into their collective." The human fleet was impressive by any standard. 3,000 ships of various sizes, each one equipped with weapons that could reshape reality itself. But they were facing an enemy that had conquered entire galaxies. "Sir," called Captain Tom Mitchell from the heavy cruiser Perseus, "the aliens are asking what they can do to help." Ben almost smiled. The same species that had rejected humanity's offer to help defend the galaxy were now begging to be useful. "Tell them to evacuate the civilian populations. This fight is ours." As the human fleet moved toward the approaching enemy, Ben thought about the road that had led them here. 30 years of hiding, of pretending to be weak, of letting the aliens think they were superior. Also that humanity could prepare for a threat like this. "Admiral," Dr. Kim said quietly, There's something else about the Queen ship. Our analysis suggests it has psychic abilities. It can reach into minds and turn enemies against each other. Range? Unknown, but probably several light years when it's fully powered. Ben felt a chill run down his spine. Signal all ships. Activate neural shielding and prepare the Omega Protocol. The Omega Protocol was humanity's most secret weapon. Only a few dozen people in the entire galaxy knew it existed. It was the ultimate expression of human ingenuity, and Ben hoped they would never have to use it. The two fleets met in the empty space between star systems. The battle began with the Zephyrians firing first, their dark matter weapons reaching across millions of kilometers to strike at the human ships. But the human vessels were ready, adaptive shielding active, reported Commander Grant. Their weapons are having minimal effect, Ben watched as his ships responded. The human fleet did not fight like the aliens expected. Instead of charging forward in formation, they spread out and began to flicker in and out of existence, using quantum tunneling to appear where the enemy least expected them. Captain Amy Rodriguez commanded a special unit called the Reality Hackers. From her ship, the UES Paradox. Her crew was not made up of soldiers but of scientists and engineers who had learned to use the universe itself as a weapon. Deploying quantum viruses, Amy announced. Target enemy navigation systems. What happened next was something that had never been seen in warfare before. The quantum viruses were not computer programs. They were mathematical concepts given physical form, designed to attack the very equations that held reality together. The Zephyrian ships began to behave strangely. Some started flying in circles, others began firing on their own forces. A few simply stopped existing in normal space-time, trapped in mathematical loops that made them unable to affect the physical world. Impossible, came a transmission from the Queen ship. It was the first time the Zephyrian collective had spoken during the battle. You cannot weaponize mathematics itself. Watch us, Ben said quietly. The battle intensified as more human weapons came online. Ships fired gravity bombs that created black holes, then closed them before they could grow too large. Others launched temporal distortion fields that made enemy vessels age. Thousands of years and seconds, but the Queen ship was adapting. As Ben watched, its biomechanical hull began to change, developing new defenses against each human weapon. The creature was learning, and it was learning fast. Admiral, Dr. Kim said urgently. The Queen ship is preparing to use its psychic attack. If it succeeds, it could turn our own fleet against us. Ben felt the mental pressure beginning to build. It started as a whisper in the back of his mind, then grew stronger. He could feel the alien presence trying to dig into his thoughts, to take control of his will. Around the fleet, some of the smaller human ships began to waver. Their crews were fighting an invisible battle against an enemy that attacked the mind itself. Now would be a good time for the Omega Protocol, Ben said through gritted teeth. Commander Grant's hands moved across her console. Omega Protocol activated. All reality hacker units, prepare for universal mathematics override. What happened next was something that changed warfare forever. The human ships did not just attack the Zephyrian fleet. They began to rewrite the fundamental laws of physics in the local area. Amy Rodriguez watched her screens as her team worked their impossible magic, deploying consciousness viruses. Target the collective mind itself. The viruses spread through the Zephyrian network like a plague of ideas. But these were not normal computer viruses. They were thoughts given physical form, concepts that could reproduce and spread through any mind they encountered. The Queen ship's psychic scream filled space as its collective consciousness was infected with human ideas. Concepts like individual, free will, personal choice, and independent thought began to spread through the hive mind like a disease. The collective is fragmenting, Dr. Kim reported with amazement. The individual Zephyrian minds are breaking free from the group consciousness. Ben watched in fascination as the enemy fleet began to tear itself apart. Ships that had been perfectly coordinated moments before now attacked each other as their crews rediscovered individual identity, But the Queen ship was not finished. In desperation, it began to channel all its remaining power into one final attack. Reality around the massive creature began to warp and twist as it prepared to unleash forces that could destroy entire star systems. "It's going to create a reality storm," Dr. Kim said. "If that thing goes off, it could unravel space-time itself." Ben made the hardest decision of his military career. "All ships, target the Queen ship, everything we have, now." The entire human fleet opened fire at once. Gravity cannons, reality scramblers, quantum torpedoes, and weapons that had no names all struck the massive biomechanical creature at the same time. The Queen ship fought back, its reality warping abilities clashing with human weapons in a battle that bent the laws of physics. Spacetime itself began to crack and splinter as two impossible technologies met in final combat. Then, in a flash of light that could be seen across the galaxy, the Queen ship imploded. The massive creature collapsed in on itself, creating a localized singularity that dragged the remains of the Zephyrian fleet into oblivion. The silence that followed was not just the absence of battle. It was the sound of an entire galaxy realizing that the universe had changed forever. Ben looked around his bridge at his exhausted crew. They had won, but the victory had cost them everything they had hidden for 30 years. The galaxy now knew exactly what humanity was capable of, and there would be no going back to pretending they were harmless. 3 weeks after the destruction of the Zephyrian fleet, the Galactic Council met again. But this time, everything was different. The great chamber that had once echoed with alien laughter and mockery now held a silence that spoke of fear and respect. President Helen Murphy sat at what had once been the Human Observer Station. She was a woman in her 50s with gray hair and intelligent brown eyes. But today she was not just representing humanity. She was reshaping the future of galactic civilization. The alien representatives sat in their places, but they looked smaller somehow. The same creatures who had dismissed humanity as primitive now watched every human movement with careful attention. They had learned what happened when you underestimated the species that called Earth home. Ambassador Zexter spoke first, his mandibles clicking nervously. "President Murphy, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I want to formally thank humanity for saving us from the Zephyrian threat." Helen nodded politely. "We did what needed to be done. The question now is what happens next." Luxara, the energy being who had once mocked human technology, flickered with uncertainty. "We understand that the galaxy owes humanity a great debt. We are prepared to offer you anything you desire." "What we desire," Helen said calmly, "is to make sure nothing like the Zephyrian invasion ever happens again." General Thokmar, the rock-like warrior who had questioned human military experience, spoke with a voice full of respect. "Your weapons, your tactics, your technology, they are beyond anything we imagined possible. How long have you been preparing for such a threat?" Helen smiled, but it was not entirely friendly. "Since the day we first learned we were not alone in the universe. We studied every species, every technology, every military doctrine in the galaxy. We learned from all of you while you thought we were learning nothing." Commander Sethanos, wrapped in his shadows, leaned forward. "The ships we saw during the battle, how many more do you have?" "Enough," Helen replied. "We have been building our true fleet for 30 years while showing you only what we wanted you to see. What you witnessed was a fraction of our real capabilities." The chamber filled with worried murmurs in 47 different languages. The aliens were beginning to understand the scope of what humanity had hidden from them. Rootsinger Velden spoke with leaves that rustled like dry paper. "What do you want from us? What are your terms?" Helen activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy. "We want to establish the Terran Defense Initiative, a new organization that will protect all civilized worlds from external threats." "Under human command?" asked Admiral Kretox of the Serpentine Alliance. "Under human command," Helen confirmed. "You have all proven that your individual militaries cannot handle threats like the Zephyrians. We have proven that we can." "General." Chris Jackson stepped forward from his place behind Helen. He was a tall man with short black hair and the bearing of someone who had commanded real battles. The TDI will be based on Luna, Earth's moon. We are already beginning construction of the largest military complex in galactic history. Ambassador Zexther's mandibles clicked rapidly. And what will happen to our own defense forces? They will be integrated into the TDI structure, Chris replied. Your ships, your personnel, your resources, all under unified command, human command. The implications were clear. Humanity was not asking to join the galactic community as equals. They were taking control of it. Luxara flickered with what might have been anger. You are demanding that we surrender our military independence to a species that was rejected from our defense force just months ago. Helen's expression did not change. That species just saved your lives and your civilizations. The choice is yours, but let me be clear about something. Humanity will no longer hide what we are capable of. The age of pretending to be weak is over. She activated another display that showed construction sites throughout the solar system. Massive shipyards, weapons facilities, and research stations that had been hidden for decades were now operating openly. These facilities have been producing ships and weapons while you thought we were playing with primitive technology, Helen continued. We have battle cruisers that can reshape reality, destroyers that exist in multiple dimensions at once, and weapons that can rewrite the laws of physics themselves. Dr. Rachel Kim, now wearing the uniform of the TDI Science Division, added her own presentation. We have also been developing defensive technologies. Shield systems that protect entire star systems, early warning networks that span multiple galaxies, and the ability to detect threats before they become dangerous. The alien representatives looked at each other with growing alarm. They were realizing that humanity had not just been hiding military strength. They had been building a technological civilization that surpassed anything the galaxy had ever seen. What about trade relationships? Asked a creature that looked like a walking crystal formation. Economic cooperation? Scientific exchange? All of those will continue, Helen assured them. But under new rules. Rules designed to prevent another Zephyrian-type threat from ever catching us unprepared. Chris activated a tactical display showing patrol routes throughout the galaxy. TDI forces will establish permanent stations in every major star system. Any unusual activity will be investigated immediately. You are talking about occupying our space, Thokmar rumbled. We are talking about protecting our galaxy, Helen corrected. Your space, our space, those distinctions nearly got everyone killed. From now on, galactic defense is too important to leave to individual species. Ambassador Zexther was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke with a voice that held no trace of his former arrogance. What guarantee do we have that humanity will not use this power against us? Helen stood up and walked to the center of the chamber. You have the same guarantee you had before, our word. But now you know what happens to those who threaten the peace we are sworn to protect. The holographic display changed to show images from the battle against the Zephyrians. Reality-warping weapons, consciousness viruses, ships that existed in quantum superposition. The aliens watched their former tormentors being destroyed by forces they could not understand or resist. The Zephyrians thought they were the apex predators of the universe, Helen said quietly. They learned otherwise. I hope no one else needs to learn that lesson. The vote was unanimous. 47 species formally requested that humanity establish the Terran Defense Initiative and take responsibility for galactic security. Not because they wanted to, but because they had no choice. As the meeting ended, Helen walked to the observation deck that looked out at the stars. General Jackson joined her there. Do you think they understand what just happened? Chris asked. They understand that the galaxy changed forever, Helen replied. Whether they understand why depends on how smart they really are, and if some of them decide to resist the new order. Helen's reflection in the transparent aluminum showed a smile that held no warmth. Then they will discover what happened. To the last group that underestimated humanity. Far away on Luna, construction crews were putting the finishing touches on the Terran Defense Initiative headquarters. The complex was larger than most cities, with facilities that could coordinate the defense of an entire galaxy. At its center stood a monument with a simple inscription: to those who mistake human restraint for human weakness. This monument serves as their warning. The galaxy was safe, but it would never be the same. In saving galactic civilization, humanity had claimed its place as the protectors and rulers of known space. The species that had once been mocked for their primitive weapons now held the power to rewrite reality itself, and across the galaxy, in 47 different languages, the same truth was being spoken in whispers: never again will anyone laugh at the humans. The age of human dominance had begun, and it would last as long as the stars themselves.